So,
Mhm.
what inspired you to name your book 2 Corinthians?
The speech that candidate Trump gave to Liberty University, which is supposed to be a Christian university, evangelical university. And so he went there to, like a lot of other Republican candidates have done before him, to get the support of the evangelical community, white evangelical community, because at the time they were leaning towards Ted Cruz and not in his camp. So he went there to make a speech to them. And so during the speech, he did some other things too, but it was in that speech when he referred to 2 Corinthians, and to the listener, once you hear somebody say 2 Corinthians, that tells you a lot. It tells you you've not been to church very often. And because everybody that's ever been to church knows it's not 2 Corinthians, it's 2 Corinthians, it's First Corinthians, it's Second Corinthians, it's First Colossians, it's second, it's First John, Second John, Third John, but it is not 2 Corinthians. And for the white evangelical community to just pretend like that never happened, and to then say that he's one of us when he so clearly just demonstrated to you that he's not. But something about him had nothing to do with a walk with Christ that made them embrace him to the tune of, depending on what poll you look at, 60, 70, 80% of white evangelicals supported him, despite all this other stuff. And so that's where 2 Corinthians came from, the buy-in to it, which is the natural progression of the white evangelicals. Because like I said, the Klan was started in the white church. Many times that they would say the benediction and go and lynch, or butcher some indigenous people. And then after they butchered them and maybe they buried them, maybe they didn't, they built a church in the same spot and then wrote hymns. So for their lineage to now support Donald Trump, to me, was the natural progression. There wasn't a shock. Of course, they supported Donald Trump when you could be the founding fathers, and freeing religious oppression, and nothing struck you wrong about slavery. And I asked the question earlier we were talking. What has your walk with God ever told you not to do? What have you ever? Because one thing I know about when you walk with God, there are times you will feel the Spirit push you forward, and then there are times you'll feel the Spirit restrain you and tell you, don't go, or don't say this, don't act this way. You walk with God when you feel them both, the unction to go and the unction to refrain from going. And even the scripture talks about, time to weep and a time to refrain. So that tension you should feel. But I wonder what that community can point to that the spirits ever told them not to do. Did it ever say not to own slaves? Did it ever say not to turn on fire hoses? Did it ever say not to butcher indigenous babies? Did it say not to feed black babies to crocodiles for bait? Did it say not to go into the slave quarters and rape the girls? And did it say not to pull the wife from a slave and spend the night with his wife? What has it ever said not to do? Did it say not to put brown babies inside of cages and call them illegal? Or not to pull back on food for the poor or anything. So have you ever been refrained? Have you ever been restrained by the gospel? Or is it just that God basically is just like a rubber stamp for these people who, whatever you come to mind, God is right there to go, yes, do it. Has God ever said no? Has he ever said, you got to do better? Has he ever said that this is not right? I had a clock ticking one time on how long it would take some of the prominent, especially the white evangelicals, to speak out on police brutality. You know, after George Floyd died, or after Shamir Rice, go down the list. Sandra Bland, and yet these people, especially these white evangelicals, with black people sitting in the congregation, said nothing. Said nothing. Nothing. And you got black people sitting right there, and these people said nothing. Joel Osteen, unless he said something recently, said nothing. Rob Parsley, who I call the Elvis Presley of preaching, take black preaching and sell it back to us, said nothing. Silent. Nothing. When Trump said he wanted to give immunity to police officers for brutality, they said nothing. Nothing. And it's like, at what point do you have to start being a real child of God? Jesus said that I never knew you. Not I don't know you. He said, I never knew you. And if I'm wrong theologically, pray for me. But I think that means I have no knowledge of you today. I have no knowledge of you yesterday, the day before that, your mama, your father, your grandfather, I never knew any of you. And just because you say my name, Lord, Lord, he said, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. I mean, when Brown versus Board of Education, I think it was 1957, May 17th, 1957. I might be off a couple of days. And the response to the fact that black children and white children have to go to school together, the white churches start opening segregation academies. Instead of saying, okay, I'm talking about I've never required anybody that does not profess to walk with God. I don't require anything of them. But if you say that you're a child of God, and then your church went in and built schools, constructed these Catholic schools and Christian schools, and we got some in St. Pete, they're all around the country. These schools were built so little white kids did not have to go to school with these black kids. Now, that's fine if you don't profess to walk with God, because I think we didn't really get we didn't win in that exchange either. Taking away our black schools. So that wasn't a win for us either. But it seems like something should be more required of those who say they are believers. You know, they are believers. And this book is really designed, and even the podcast I'm putting towards is, I think they need to be called out. You need to be called out. I had a friend of mine was trying to convince me regarding the